Welcome to a Glass Recycling Coalition webinar this afternoon, What Cleaner MRF Glass Can Mean for Your Community. As I see attendees rolling in, hopefully everyone can hear me. I may just pause just another minute while I see the counter continuing to go up. Looks like we're getting everyone rolling into the webinar. We'll start in just a moment. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Scott DeFife. I am the president of the Glass Packaging Institute. I'm also going to be your moderator for today's webinar. As we move through the webinar, you're going to hear, we have a rock star panel for you. Amy Wong from Sims Municipal Recycling, then Brent Perdue from Balcones Recycling, and Jill McCutcheon from Sedona Recycles. I'll take a minute in between each of their presentations to give you a brief bio on the speakers. But before we do that, I'm going to go through a couple of the basic logistics for our webinar. Everyone who was entered as an attendee is on mute. Please use the Q&A function on your chat board down there in the functional controls for Zoom, the Q&A function, to log in questions, not the chat, but the Q&A. And the webinar is being recorded and it will be available afterwards on our GRC website, glassrecycles.org. The Glass Recycling Coalition is a confederation of organizations that all work within domestic glass recycling markets. So not only the container manufacturers, such as that I represent from GPI, but insulation manufacturers, other uses for recycled glass, brands, MRFs, and a variety of different companies that support glass recycling in the United States. Here you can see we have about 30 members right now, including some regional recycling organizations. And the GRC works to improve glass recycling across the United States. We have a robust website, glassrecycles.org. On there are many tools and talking points for glass champions, an interactive glass map that shows end markets and facilities within the United States that handle and work in glass and recycled glass. Also a guide to Speakers Bureau, regional workshops, and our surveys and data. In the past, GRC has even taken action on interventions, such as the work that we did in Orange County, North Carolina a couple of years ago, and many of the other projects that we've been doing more recently to help expand collection and recovery of glass and education about glass recycling in communities across the country. Lastly, as a part of an interactive, we find that these webinars are better if there's a little bit of an interactive element to the webinar. So normally, and as you are all on mute and everything is virtual these days, we can't see that you're working on your cell phone at the same time, but right now we want you to open up a browser or pick up a cell phone or some other device and text 37607, or text this the message of recycle 123 to the address of 37607. This is going to allow you to enter into GRC's poll function, where we can give you a couple questions throughout the webinar to get some sort of sense of your views of some of the activities and issues that we'll be addressing during the next hour. So I'm just going to wait one more second. Let's see. You text recycle 123 to 37607 to join the poll. And our first question is, what part of the value chain do you represent? We want to make sure that we know our audience a little bit. So if you find that you do not fit into the MRF category, the broader glass industry category, or recycling category, then D is your choice for other recycling interests. I see these entries rolling in real time. Looks like we have a lot of folks who are involved in recycling. with a couple of people from the glass industry and many other and equal representations from MRFs and other recycling. So excellent job, everyone. I can see that you've picked up on this polling mechanism relatively well. And so we're happy to have all of you for the webinar. Let's start with Amy Wong from Sims Municipal Recycling. And Amy was a part of the Glass Recycling Coalition's MRF certification committee. Amy has been a sustainability and project manager for almost 15 years, working on various construction and sustainability efforts in the New York, New Jersey, and DC area. Most recently, she completed the opening of Sims' $110 million material recovery facility in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Since the MRF opening, Amy has expanded her role at Sims to include managing a variety of capital budgets while coordinating operations and finding new ways to meet performance objectives, oversee material marketing, and acting as a liaison between Sims and various other trade associations, including the Glass Recycling Coalition, and we were so happy to have her be a part of our MRF certification committee. I'm going to turn it over to Amy to describe to you about GRC's MRF certification program.
And hello, everyone. My name is Amy Wong, and I am the Deputy General Manager for Sims Municipal Recycling, an organization that is a proud member of the Glass Recycling Coalition, and of course, its MRF certification committee. And recently launched the MRF Glass Certification Program with the intent to encourage and support the growth of quality glass products. Through this program, we are encouraging stakeholders to make the following considerations. Incorporating industry best practices into their operation, whether it's a change in the or through the use of new or modified equipment in this rotation process. The goal is to help increase. And of course, the efforts made by MRFs should be recognized and promoted to encourage production of high quality glass products. The program may also be used to link end users to generators. Certified MRFs will be permanently listed on the GRC website, and end users will be able to understand the quality. Last and most importantly, establishing community confidence. Municipalities may adopt the free program and add the requirement to its request for proposals, or include the requirement in its contracts to ensure a minimum standard is met. If MRFs need, they may always tap into the guide on MRF best practices by going to glassrecycles.org, selecting menu, and then material recovery facilities. Go to the next.
Amy, this is Scott. We're having just a little bit of audio issues hearing you.
Oh, so sorry. I speak into the mic.
Yeah, thank you.
Better? Would you be able to flip to the next slide? Thank you. Sorry. So this is the best practices resource on the GRC website. As you can see on the left-hand side, it provides a general overview of the typical processes and stages MRFs may exercise in order to clean their glass. If anyone needs details, they may click on the MRF Glass Guide button, and that will take them to a document that maps out approaches MRFs may exercise to achieve certain goals. Those goals may include process, like how to minimize cross-contamination, a MRF's configuration, and generally with glass extraction equipment being located at the beginning of the systems, how to handle material to increase the quality and maximize glass recovery. They may also learn about the type of equipment that may be utilized to remove glass and glass contaminants. And if they need more advice, links to companies MRFs may reach out to. Those include equipment manufacturers and MRFs that currently utilize glass rotation equipment. And so our certification program targets MRFs with glass cleanup processes. That can include MRFs that incorporate drop-off programs, those that utilize manual sortation, and of course, mechanical equipment like trommels, disc screens, or air knives. When reviewing applications, committee members evaluate systems based on encouraging the highest and best use for glass. They review the current infrastructure and how that marries up the best management practices with or without drop-off programs. The next concerns the purity level achieved. Generally, we're looking at 75% or greater. The purity level can be achieved through manual sortation or the use of equipment that crushes and removes light fraction material from the glass. Last, whether or not the applicant has a market for the glass that's produced. Even though a MRF pulls glass out of its material stream, the glass should be reused. The program awards 3 certification levels: bronze, silver, and gold, with gold being the highest awarded level, generally with a purity rate of over 90%. Certification is good for 3 years, which means 3 years of accolades. And again, we want to encourage and support the growth of quality glass products that are viable in the market and for beneficial reuse. So the program is free, and we made the process simple and easy to complete. The application process starts on the GRC website, that is glassrecycles.org. Go to Tools, and then select MRF Glass Certification. The application is a 2-step process. The first step is filling out the application, and the second is conducting an audit on a 5 to 10 pound sample. The online application is comprised of approximately 9 questions related to the operation of the MRF. It asks if a MRF accepts glass. That's pretty simple. The volume of material processed, if it receives glass from glass-only drop-off programs, and that volume, if the MRF has glass cleanup equipment, and to select the equipment that it utilizes. I think if you can flip to the next slide. And then if a MRF does not have cleanup equipment, the MRF should select other and describe this procedure for glass processing. The next question asks if a MRF removes its minus 3/8 inch material. And last, if the MRF has an outlet for its glass, not including alternative daily cover. The next step requires taking a glass sample and performing an audit of that material. The purpose of the sample is to understand the purity of the glass. We included detailed instructions, but if a MRF needs clarification or assistance, they may always reach out to the GRC. The sample should be a minimum of 5 pounds, and weights and photos should be taken of non-glass residue, glass greater than, and less than 3/8 of an inch. The weights and photos should be uploaded with the application on the website, and after submission, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for notification of an award. When committee members conduct their evaluations, they cannot see who the applicant is, so the focus remains purely on the system. Once a determination has been made to certify a MRF, the name and location of the MRF will be revealed to committee members. MRFs not awarded a certification will remain anonymous, and MRFs may apply again once improvements have been made. So at the end of the day, certified MRFs deserve to be recognized. And the GRC will promote their certifications. And our promotion strategies will include write-ups in our industry publications, a highlight on the GRC infrastructure map, and anything else we can do to call attention to their achievements. Becoming a certified MRF should be the baseline to measure effective glass cleaning. The base level has been studied and seems to be well received by secondary processors and end markets. In addition, the certification program will help clearly connect end markets and other beneficiary projects to generators and vice versa. If there's a gap in the supply chain, end markets or municipalities may use the certification program as a tool to increase the quality of the glass produced and received. In those instances, MRFs may reach out to the GRC, and we will do our best to guide MRFs to satisfy the requirement. The program was launched in October 2019, and our first 2 recipients are silver certified. Balcones Resources was our first recipient, and they are located in Austin, Texas. Balcones MRF utilizes best management equipment to sort out its glass, and you'll learn more about that in a moment. And our second recipient, Sedona Recycles, is an Arizona-based recycling company that collects its glass separately from the rest of its MRF material. The glass is manually sorted and crushed for the market, and you'll hear more about that later. While both MRFs utilize different techniques, they generate a quality product that meets the needs of their markets. And we hope and encourage all MRFs to apply, as it will demonstrate their commitment to glass recovery and help maintain our glass recycling network. So thank you for your time, and please feel free to type any questions you may have in the Q&A box, and we'll answer them at the end.
Thank you very much, Amy. And again, repeating what Amy just asked you to do, that Q&A box is the place for notes to the panelists, and we saw some notes, and hopefully the audio was picking up. Amy, thanks for adjusting midstream there. Our next question goes to barriers for applying to be a certified MRF. So you guys are getting the hang of this really quickly. Again, if you haven't joined the polling already, you need to start by texting Recycle123 to 37607 and then answer the question that is in front of you, A, B, C, D, or E, about the barriers for applying to be a certified MRF. See financial, and then a little bit of unsure about whether you have end markets for the product, consumer behavior, and awareness of the certification. Well, good thing that we're doing this webinar today, and we're going to continue to push out the message about our GRC MRF certification program. I think this is great that I do not see a lot of fear of not passing. An excellent non-answer to our webinar. All right, so everybody's in. Thank you very much. And as Amy mentioned, we had our first two MRFs to get the GRC certification were Balcones Resources and Sedona Recycles. And with us next is Brent Perdue, who is the general manager of Balcones Resources in Austin. They operate a 15,000 ton a month MRF serving the city of Austin and surrounding central Texas region. Brent operated a recycling drop-off facility for several years prior to joining Balcones 3 years ago. And in a note of personal privilege, I will note that we found out going into the webinar that Brent and I have an alma mater in common. And so I must also say that he earned his degrees in public affairs and community and regional planning from the University of Texas at Austin. Thank you so much, Brent, for being with us, and take it away with your presentation.
Great, thanks Scott and GRC. I just want to pause for a moment and make sure everybody can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Great. Yep, happy to share the alma mater, UT Austin. And as Scott mentioned, my name is Brent Perdue. I'm the general manager of Balcones Resources, the Austin facility. And I'd like to just start with a little bit of overview about Balcones. So Balcones was established in 1994. We have a facility in Austin. It's our flagship facility. We also have a facility in Dallas and Little Rock. Slightly different, more of a commercial type of MRF. The Austin processing facility, which I'm going to focus on today, opened in 2012. Initially, it was a 25-ton-an-hour processing facility and about a $25 million capital investment that includes MRF equipment, land, etc. Currently we process about 160,000 tons a year, which comes out to about 15,000 tons a month. About 25% of that is glass, so that's about 2,000 to 2,500 tons. We service the Central Texas region, municipal clients, commercial clients, you have it. And most recently, last year in 2019, we did a major upgrade and retrofit of our facility. We increased our processing capability to 30 tons an hour. And then most specifically to this presentation, we upgraded our glass breaker screen, and I'll talk more about that a little later on. We send our glass to Strategic in Midlothian, which is outside of Dallas, and we'll talk a little bit more about what our glass looks like. So Balcones, when we look at materials to recycle, we have a number of factors that we're looking at to determine, is it cost effective to recycle material? We look at end markets. Are they reliable, viable, stable? We're lucky in the sense that we're close to a glass processing facility. So we have that end market with a reliable partner. We have a good, clean supply of glass. Austin is a young town. It's an entertainment town. So you see a lot of glass bottles getting into our stream. And then we look at processing, what technology is out there, how much does it cost, is it effective, does it produce the end product result that we desire, and then the economics of it. You know, is it favorable to Balcones to take in this material? Is it favorable to our customers? Is it favorable to the end user in that case? So these are the things that we look at when determining the viability of recycling. And then just to give you all a sense of the scope of what Balcones does, you know, this data is a little old, from 2015, but the highlight here is Balcones processes about 11% of the total glass recycled in Texas. So we're a significant contributor to recycling of glass in the Texas region, and we have a strong commitment to making sure glass is recycled. So this is a photo of our brand new glass breaker screen, you know, new a year ago. So what we did here is we initially had a 2-deck screen, which if you can visualize those discs there, each of those is one segment. Previously it was just 2 of those segments. Now we expanded to a 4-deck screen, so we have 4 disc rollers that are crushing glass, cleaning up the stream. And the reason we did that is because of the volume of glass we get in our mix. And then also because some of the other reasons I'm going to touch on in a few minutes about getting glass out of other materials, etc. But first, I believe my next slide is a video of what our glass cleanup, I got to describe it a little bit. We have a glass cleanup system as well, just to describe the process. As single stream material flows across that glass breaker, glass is crushed, and anything that is 2 inches or smaller will fall through the screen, primarily glass, and then hit a conveyor belt. That conveyor belt is troughed. It runs the spans of our 100,000 square foot facility and heads out to a shaker screen, which is a vibratory screen that pulls glass up, or excuse me, pulls fines up and glass down, so the air aspirator, which is basically a big vacuum, can suck out any kind of contaminants that fall through the screen. You know, we primarily see shredded paper, you know, bottle caps, things of that nature that are getting into our glass screen. So in order to achieve the certification that GRC provides, and then also to make sure we meet our in-market specs, we have this cleanup process to make sure our glass is a clean product. So this is the video of what it looks like. There's no audio, so you're not missing the audio. That's the shaker screen, and that's the air aspirator that's sucking out shredded paper and other bits of contamination, food particles, corks, what have you. And then it ends up in our bunker here. That's an old photo. Our bunker actually is much bigger than that now. We no longer put it in roll-offs. We load it with a wheel loader. We have 2 bunkers of glass because of the volume. Next slide. So clean glass is really important to Balcones for a number of reasons. You know, one of them is fugitive material. Glass has an ability, just on the size and the durability of it, to get into other recycling streams, paper, plastics. So we invested in this bigger glass breaker to remove as much glass as possible so that glass doesn't end up contaminating other types of recyclables. In addition, glass is very, can be very damaging to machinery. You know, you can envision running these facilities almost 24/7 and this almost a sandblasting occurring on your other pieces of equipment. So we want to make sure we get that glass out of the system as soon as possible in order to avoid that. And then lastly, market viability. We invested in glass cleanup systems so that we meet our buyer specifications and to ensure that this glass finds a home to be recycled. And so when we learned of the GRC glass certification program, we were excited to be one of the first participants. As I mentioned previously, continuity of glass recycling is important to us. It's a large percentage of our material composition. And we want to ensure that glass is a component of recycling programs. Oftentimes you'll hear about glass getting dropped from programs. They'll cite expense, but you know, in some ways that is an avoiding of making the proper investment in this material to make sure that it gets recycled. Citizens want this, consumers want this, they almost expect it. So one of the benefits you may see from that is if you are certified, you invest in glass cleanup systems, municipal contracts may view that favorably. They may have that as an actual requirement or maybe a preference that would help a MRF operator win a municipal contract. So we decided to go through the MRF certification process. It was very user-friendly, didn't take much time, and the instructions are very clear and concise. And we did this to demonstrate our commitment to recycling glass. We wanted to verify to all stakeholders of the quality of our glass. And then we wanted to signal to our buyers and customers that our glass is high quality and that we're committed to maintaining that. So that's my presentation. Thanks to the GRC and the participants for having me, and I'm happy to answer any questions at the end of the session.
All right. Thank you very much, Brent. There were a couple questions that came in. I think it's probably better that we roll on and then we'll cover any questions that don't get answered in the Q&A, because the speakers do have the ability to type answers back to the participation, especially if you put them in the Q&A box, and then I'll make sure at the end that any questions that came in during Brent's or Jill's presentation are covered at the end. Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Jill McCutcheon from Sedona Recycles. After several years working her way through the organization and learning the ropes, Jill became director of Sedona Recycles in 2006. Sedona is dedicated to the practices of material recovery, and they work to achieve that goal by collecting materials multi-stream. Multi-stream process allows Sedona to keep contamination low and quality high. Sedona Recycles is a huge component of glass recycling, and they make it their mission to promote the use and recycling of glass. And welcome very much, Jill, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the GRC for presenting this webinar, and I'm really thrilled to be part of it. We're kind of at the other end of the spectrum. We're very low tech. As was stated, we are a multi-stream facility, so we collect glass all by itself. We are an educational nonprofit, and we were founded in 1989 by 3 local women who were soccer moms who were tired of seeing so much going into the trash and wanted to begin a recycling program in a rural area to make a difference. And so we through some funding through ADEQ, which is the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, were able to get funding to open a facility, a MRF, in 1996. And we began by using multi-stream collection, and we continue that to this day, which is rather unusual. But we do our cardboard separately, our paper separately. We only mix plastics and cans. That's the only items that we sort. And we do glass all by itself. So we're a very small facility. We're located only on a 1/4 acre of land, so it's tight in there. But we do all of these collections at that facility, and some unusual ones as well as styrofoam and reuse materials for the public. But glass is something that we truly believe in, and we have made it our mission to provide the cleanest glass possible to our end markets. The public does that sort for us, and they're good at it. Our bunkers hold clear glass in one bunker, and we do the mixed glass, the amber and the brown, the amber and the green in the other bunker, and we break that up using a front loader to get it down to the size that's necessary for shipment. All of our material goes to Strategic Materials in Phoenix, and as it states here, one collection site alone we pick up 6 tons of glass per week, and that's just in one very small community that we serve. We have several drop-off locations, and at those drop-off locations we provide either a trailer or totes to collect the glass, and the public, as I said previously, does the sorting. So we serve not only Sedona but the surrounding communities, and it's probably a population total of about 65,000 that have access to these drop-off facilities to use for glass. But we have people who are traveling long distances from either Flagstaff or Prescott areas to bring their glass because their programs don't collect glass. So these are our collection systems. We do totes, we do trailers, and these are located at our drop-off sites and also at businesses. So the public does the sorting into these collection systems. We pick up our trailers and our totes using a universal diesel truck that has a hoist on it for the totes, and we haul the trailers into the facility where we dump those bins using a forklift with a rotator into our glass bunkers. And then when we go to do our loading, we use the same front loader that we use to break up the glass to load into the trucks to go down to Strategic Materials in Phoenix. We have always had an end market for our glass because of the quality, so there's never been an issue of not having a market for our glass. And Strategic opened their facility in Phoenix. Previous to that, it was going to Calexico in California. But currently it just travels 1 hour from our facility right straight down to Strategic in Phoenix. So when we spoke to Strategic and we did a tour of their facility down in Phoenix, they let us know that the glass that they're receiving from us is the cleanest that comes into their processing facility. And I think this is due mainly to our collection system of not having it commingled with any other material. It's a very, very simple process. The public is involved in it, and so it's a learning and an educational opportunity. We do about 27 to 29% by weight of glass in our total collection program, and we're really proud of the fact that we are able to recover so much glass in a small rural community. And so as I said previously, education for us is critical, and what we want to make clear to the public and to anyone coming for a tour of the facility or any classroom work that we do is the move from plastics to glass. Glass being infinitely recyclable, we feel it is a much better product, and we want people to really think about that when they're making a purchase. Plastic is very difficult to deal with. Glass is very simple, it's clean, and as I stated, it's infinitely recyclable, so we think it's very important to make that changeover. So we promote glass anytime we can to anyone we get a chance to speak to. So the MRF certification for us was very important because we are huge supporters of glass, and when we saw that this was available, we jumped right in there. It was very simple. And we are very proud to be a very small facility that qualified for this certification. We make sure that everyone knows about it on our website, and we have press releases, and we're very proud and big supporters of this program. We would encourage everyone to apply for certification.
Great, thank you very much, Jill.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody. We have some time to try to answer some of the questions. I want to, oh, wait, before that, there was another poll. Now that you've heard about the MRF Glass Certification Program, and I will try to, please enter your questions here or your answers here to what do you feel is the greatest benefit to a MRF Glass certification? Creating greater demand, public recognition for MRFs with cleaner glass, advantages for cullet buyers, or competitive advantage over other MRFs who are not certified. We'll give a minute for this, and while you are answering this polling question, I'm going to go through a couple of the questions that I saw in the Q&A box, and I'll reiterate, it helps us if you ask your questions through the Q&A function of the Zoom bar, not the chat function. This way the moderator, the panelists can see the questions and answer the questions directly. But one that I saw a couple of times, which did get answered possibly privately, the GRC MRF certification program is free. There is no charge to go through the GRC MRF certification program for the certification process itself. It looks like we've got some good answers here for the benefits, creating greater demand and competitive advantage over other MRFs. Very good. In fact, a little bit spread across the entire system here. So let's try to, I think this is the last of our slides for the program, and we can turn to for a few minutes to try to engage in the Q&A, and I'll try to follow up with a couple of the questions that I saw that may have not gotten answered completely. Again, the GRC MRF certification process is free. There was a question for both the MRF operators, for Jill and Brent, and Amy, please feel free to chime in as well. What kind of education methods do you give the citizens in your service territory for making sure that they help doing the pre-sort or making sure that they are recycling glass properly?
I can start with that. As an educational nonprofit, we give presentations to classrooms and schools. We also are available for tours every day of the week that we're open, either for drop-by or tours for schools, scout groups, and we try to present to them the importance of their part in the sorting process. And we also are open in the front, so we go out and talk to the public. We monitor the bins, and we speak to people at the drop-off sites.
Okay. Brent, did you have anything to add to the education process?
Sure.
Or Amy?
Yeah, Balcones has literature and whatnot on our website, and primarily we partner with the city of Austin, who has a whole division dedicated to education around these issues. I find that glass contamination isn't a huge problem. The main thing here would be like window pane glass. We wouldn't want to accept the contamination piece that we really find to be problematic in the MRF is unrelated to glass. It's your plastic bags, your hoses, scrap metal, things like that.
Okay.
And,
Amy, did you have any other thoughts on this?
Sure. In New York City, Sims built an education center at its MRF in Brooklyn to focus on what the community can and cannot recycle, in addition to the troubles that we have with certain items that are placed into the bins. And then we also work with our city to roll out education material as well.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to take one of these next questions that I saw flash across. There was a question about the recycling rate. There was on one of Brent's charts, there was a 25% glass recycling rate in Austin as compared to the state of Texas based on their 2015 study. And the question was, is this the norm around the country, and how is it different in bottle bill states or bottle redemption states? And I can say that nationally, the container glass bottle recycling rates is upwards of 37% based on the most recent EPA data. Nationally, we have been hovering between 33 and 35% for glass recycling for the past several of years, but in the most recent report, they specifically broke out a difference between container recycling and other glass recycling, and the container glass recycling was a little bit higher, no doubt pushed by some of the bottle bill states, which is a completely different system. And usually in those bottle bill states, there's also a corresponding mandate to recycle. And so the recycling rates in the bottle bill states are significantly higher, usually on anywhere from 60 to 80%. And the cullet from the bottle bill states ends up supplying over half of the material that ends up going back to container plants. But we want that to increase elsewhere around the country. And Minnesota is a great example of a state that has good policies and good practices that is not a bottle bill state and still has 70 to 80% glass recovery. Some of the other questions have been coming in. There was a question, there's a few questions about rates and what kind of pricing do you get? And I'll leave it to each of the panelists to respond privately if they want to talk about some of the rates that they get. But generally there is a question about end markets in your area, and I'm not sure if these questions are posed directly to Sedona and Balcones due to the markets in their area, but generally a question about if you don't think that there's an end market in your area, I can speak on behalf of GPI. There are 45 glass container plants around the country. Fiberglass insulation is also an excellent end market for recycled glass, and an additional dozens of fiberglass insulation plants around the country, all seeking more recycled glass. So before you assume that there is not a market for glass in your area, check out our GRC website that we had posted earlier, glassrecycles.org, and there's a map of all potential end markets across the United States. In addition, there's some new technology and new products coming out that use recycled glass that aren't necessarily containers or fiberglass insulation. But my guess is that there's probably an end market near you, and that the issue may not necessarily be the existence of an end market. It may be the need for quality material to get to that, and which is where the GRC glass certification process comes to. I don't know if any of our panelists would like to offer up their thoughts on end markets, but let me cede ground to Amy, Brent, and Jill in case they want to chime in on that end markets question.
No, Scott, I think you gave the best recommendation in terms of going to the GRC website and doing your market research, and other than that, you really just have to look for alternatives and where you can send this products.
Okay, thanks.
The demand is there.
Amy, there's a question here about the impacts of MRF certification. How are the impacts measured? And are MRFs investing in equipment to gain a higher recovery rate in order to qualify for a certification?
I can't speak for all MRFs, but I can speak for our MRF in the New Jersey and in New York City. We have invested millions of dollars in glass cleanup equipment because we believe that there is a market, and we have found end markets for our material. And so in terms of measuring how effective the MRF certification program will be, only time will tell. We will, of course, follow up with all the awardees and I guess check in on them and take a survey on their recovery rates and if they have any issues after becoming certified.
Okay, thanks. Looking through some of the other questions here. There's a question to GRC or GPI if there is a push nationally to require a minimum recycled content in glass containers. Well, no, we are not currently pushing a policy solution on minimum recycled content, largely because glass containers on average in the United States are already 1/3 recycled content. So even without, even without a mandate to do such, on average, the recycled content for glass containers in the United States is at around 35%. California has that requirement, and all of the glass containers there are meeting and exceeding the California requirements. I have heard of a couple other states looking to impose similar requirements. I think most recently I saw one from New Jersey. It's not that we would oppose this, but since glass containers are already on average 1/3 recycled content, GPI has not felt the need to push that policy nationally, even though we are looking to increase the amount of recycled glass in containers across the country. Brent, there was a question here about the contamination rate for glass that's collected, processed at Balcones.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not comfortable sharing that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's
But
perfectly.
I will say that it meets the buyer specification, and it has for the entire time that we've operated, and that's where we're at on that.
Okay. Jill, there was a question about the placement of the collection bins. What were the factors going into where you placed your collection bins? At least I think that question is for Jill.
Okay, we place the collection bins as part of a full drop-off site. So at each of those drop-off sites, there'd be the availability for cardboard recycling, paper, plastic and cans mixed together, and then the glass, either totes or trailer, would be available too. We try to make sure to minimize the sound of the glass hitting, so we actually use a carpeting inside of our trailers to minimize the noise, because that's been the only issue at any of the public drop-off sites was noise, and that seems to have worked out very well. So they're available at all of our drop-off sites along with all of the other materials, so they're not collected as a separate, they're collected as the multi-stream at each drop-off.
Okay. Thank you. We've got a couple more minutes here. I'm just going to try to work through some of these questions as we go through. The Minnesota recycling rate. There are incentives against landfilling glass in Minnesota. So if I understand correctly, Wisconsin, neighboring Wisconsin, has a ban on landfilling glass that is similar to what you might see in a bottle bill state. Minnesota, rather than doing a landfill ban on recyclables, created a incentive or penalty and incentive system for diverting recyclables away from landfill. In addition, there are a couple MRFs that have taken on some additional steps. Eureka is one of them that I know of that has taken some unique steps in their collection and processing, slowing down their belt a little bit, and putting in some additional equipment up front that has increased their recovery rate. And anybody else on the panel who knows more about Minnesota than I do, please feel free to jump in on that. Yes, I don't think that I think the Minnesota law is broadly for all recyclables, not necessarily just about glass. Let's see. Again, there's another question about price premiums for balconies and additional processing equipment. Brent, I'm not sure if you can see the question or not.
Yeah, what I'm able to say about that is, we have a contract with the buyer, and so the price is the same regardless of quality. I do know that I think that the buyer does entertain a variable price based on the quality. So you may be able to get a premium on your glass with the cleanup system in place, but that would be something that we don't personally do, just to have clarity around our contract, and then would just be up to each individual MRF.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm told that everybody who's submitting questions can't see the questions, so I need to, okay. Here's a question for the group. Do we still use the term glass beneficiation? And if so, what is an example of a glass beneficiation plant? Amy, do you want to take the first answer on this one?
Oh, sure. So we still use the term beneficiation, and that means the next step in the cleanup process. So MRFs generally pull out the glass, and it can be mixed with other metals, organics, and even plastic bits. And so in the beneficiation process, that secondary step, it pulls out the metal, the plastics, and even the organic matter to create a product that can go to a furnace. And that furnace then remelts it into whatever product that it's scheduled to produce.
Okay. Yeah, beneficiation, is just the term that is commonly used to take that raw material and turn it into, something that's furnace ready from the glass processing, the glass container industry's point of view. So you just can't take the glass and put it back in the furnace. It has to meet a spec before it can go back into the furnace. That processing or beneficiation is part of that. Amy, another question for you, since you operate in or near some bottle bill states, is it worth to collect other glass if you're a MRF that takes single stream recycling, even if you're in a bottle bill state, because the bottle bill glass goes to a separate facility that handles that which comes from the single stream?
I mean, it all comes down to convenience. Even though a MRF is located in a bottle bill state, residents will put glass into their containers. There's something called wish cycling. So oftentimes people think that, in other states and cities, they can recycle an item and they'll take that information and use it in their new locality. And so no matter what, MRFs will see glass within their mix. And even if it's a bottle bill state, so they should be prepared with equipment to sort glass and eliminate, I guess, that contamination from the plastic and the metal. And they will have to find it at home. Otherwise, the glass would go to the landfill. And that's not necessarily what you want in a zero waste environment.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I think we've got time for about one more question here, and I know there's a couple more, and we'll try to answer these directly. We've got names, and to do our best to follow up with one or two of these questions that we didn't get answered here on the thing. There was a specific question to Jill about markets in your area that would accept the glass if there wasn't the secondary processing from SMI. So I'm not sure about how you would.
That's the only thing we have available to us is through strategic materials. I haven't been aware of anybody else working with glass. We don't have any fiberglass processing plants or anything like that in our area. We're very rural, very small. So, we're just very, very lucky to have that facility in Phoenix, and it's always been available to us to work with strategic materials.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending today's GRC webinar on our MRF certification program. Again, you can find more information on the GRC website, which is glassrecycles.org. The MRF certification process is free to go through, and please reach out to the Glass Recycling Coalition if you're interested, and we would love to work with you on certifying some more MRFs across the country in 2020. Again, on behalf of all the participants and the panelists, thank you very much for joining in. And this webinar will be up and available on the GRC website after this is over. Thank you again for attending today, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.